solve some of the technical glitches, which are the technical problems that they might have, and how can we solve them. I think Kiran will help us do that. And I just wanted to say and thank the community for signing on our sandbox, and we are very excited that uh, uh, you have expressed interest in this mission. This mission holds a lot of potential, but this mission, as well as digital health, will be successful only if uh, all of us put in our efforts. This is a new thing. Various things are evolving. Um, we need a lot of support in terms of your suggestions, comments, feedbacks on what is going wrong, what might be fixed, what would be good. So it is a joint journey, and we express appreciation, and also we need your support in taking this sandbox and this private integration uh, uh, journey. We want to make it more smooth. So over to Meenakshi, who will take you through a slide deck, and then um, we can have a Q&A session for how long, as long as we want, and we would want to uh, uh, like answer to each of the queries. So over to you, Meenakshi.
Thank you, sir. This being the first open house session organized, we will dedicate 15 minutes on the overview of ABDM architecture, SBX integration journey, followed by an interactive session and some highlights, some insights by Shri Kiran Anandampillai. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. If I may request the organizer, can we set up the out of organization auto entry in the Teams? I mean, I think a lot of people are joining, and that is asking us to let them admit it. So,
Meenakshi, I think you will have to admit also. So if we can, if you want, we can share the slides from some other computer.
No. It's not, the problem is not that. I think the problem is the setting in Teams. And I don't know if Meenakshi, I don't know who shared this link. Only the owner can do that change. So okay. Apologize for folks. I think we will try to make sure that we have it set for other people to join later on. Meenakshi, also can you put this into slideshow mode, please? We are seeing it in non-slideshow mode. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Please go ahead, Meenakshi.
Yes. ABDM ecosystem has been envisioned to have software provision for labs, hospitals to be compliant with ABDM, and mobile applications which can provide services to the patients. In this diagrammatic representation, in the center we have the core building blocks which act as single source of truth. That is, the data is verified, managed, and maintained by the government. It may be noted that this is the only data that is being managed by NHA. No longitudinal health record data is being stored in NHA servers. On the left, we have HIPs, that is Health Information Providers, which will generate the health records. We also have the HRPs. These are the service providers who provide software that supports the hospital to keep these health records for long-term storage and access. Data will be accessed with the help of EMR web app, which is a reference app. Reference applications are developed to demonstrate the capabilities of the building blocks, and market is expected to provide multiple options. On the right, we have HIU, that is, participants who seek longitudinal health records from the HIPs. So, expressing this in a use case, patient provides consent via ABDM for viewing health records via HIECM to the doctor who seeks to view the longitudinal health record in HIP. So this doctor becomes the HIU. And it may be noted the entire exchange mechanism is based on consent. All the health care providers need to follow common set of identifiers or health data standards. In order to be interoperable, the health data exchange has to be in standardized format, which is FHIR format. Kiran, would you like to add anything which needs to be highlighted to the participants at this point?
No, you can keep moving forward.
Thanks, Kiran. So this quickly we will go through the ABDM stack. The proposed system, ABDM proposed system is platform agnostic. That is, hospitals or labs or patients or doctors need not be on the same platform. In fact, all the platforms will be connected by ABDM open network. The longitudinal health records can be created by different ID system across various service providers. And this is what we have tried to explain in this slide. So the first layer is that of Jan Dhan, Aadhaar Mobile, and other digital public goods. On this layer, any specialized system like the National Digital Health Ecosystem can function. The second layer is for the Health Data Exchange, which comprises of registries, HICM, that is the Health Exchange Consent Manager, and health standards. The third layer, here, the digital health players will be able to exchange information using open APIs for various digital services like looking for labs or pharmacies, telemedicines, and other services. UHI enables creation of shareable longitudinal digital patient health records and discovery of doctors. And it is based on open network protocol. This actually forms a very important layer for ABDM and is envisioned to expand with market offering innovative health solution. The fourth layer, above this API layer, we have the end user applications, which will be developed by private or government players. These open APIs enable open and interoperable network and thus providing a network of hospitals, irrespective whether it's private or public or labs or any healthcare provider. Coming to the sandbox. What is a sandbox? So sandbox refers to a framework that permits technologies and products testing in a contained environment. It enables the organization, healthcare entities, healthcare professionals to become health information providers or health information users or just a health locker or create a PHR app or register as a facility and efficiently integrate with ABDM ecosystem. Further simplifying, Sandbox is an isolated testing environment that enables the users to run programs or execute files without affecting the live application. It basically will give the participating entity or integrator a look and feel of the live ABDM ecosystem. The integration process in Sandbox has been divided into phases so as to easily measure the progress towards the integration. And these phases we term as milestone, which is mentioned in the right side. Currently, we have 3 milestones defined for our integration journey. We also have 2 additional use cases. So coming to the first milestone, completion of this first milestone, that is M1, will enable any healthcare entity or a patient to generate ABHA with Aadhaar, mobile, PAN, passport, driving license, and any other government-approved identification document. Currently, system is built to facilitate ABHA creation by Aadhaar, mobile, and driving license. This milestone will also enable to capture, verify, and discover the already existing ABHA. The second milestone, completion of the second milestone, that is M2, enables a healthcare entity or a professional to become a health information provider. This implies that the clinical artifacts generated will be linked with ABHA and is ready for an exchange in ABDM ecosystem. A patient will also be able to view the generated and linked health records in any of his or her preferred PHR app downloaded in the mobile device. Important aspect to be noted is that any linking done is purely based on the patient consent. The third milestone, which is M3, ABDM ecosystem is designed on a federated architecture based on the principle of interoperability. Any health data generated resides at the source, that is the HIP. There is no health-related artifact or health-related data being stored with the National Health Authority repository. ABDM just facilitates this exchange of health data between the healthcare entity or the healthcare professionals or with a health locker. And this exchange is based on purely patient authentication. Any entity seeking health records for treatment diagnosis is termed as an HIU, that is Health Information User. And becoming an HIU marks completion of this milestone, that is M3. Health Locker, it enables the user's patients to keep their health records reports in one place, accessible simply by the touch of your fingertip. Patient consent management and management of his or her personal health records is what PHR aims at. Of course, it is a reference application and it is developed just to demonstrate the capabilities, and its market is expected to provide multiple options which would be innovative at the same time more technology driven. So this slide suggests the integration steps, though most of the participants are already aware of the current process being followed for the SBX entry and exit. So I'll not be walking through the entire steps. This presentation will be uploaded in the ABDM site. If anybody has any queries with regards to these steps, request you to please reach out. Coming to the announcements. ABDM is an evolving project and we are working to improve the integration experience. These are some of the initiatives taken for making the documentation better. We have recently uploaded latest version for API sequences and test case scenarios for milestone M1 and M2. Very soon, we will also be uploading M3 and 4 PHR apps test scenarios. This will keep on enhancing as and when the project is evolving. We will also ensure there is better tracking for the queries raised on Dev Forum. Also, the integrators dashboard we have ensured with more clarity, data is having more clarity and more meaningful data is presented. We would also be organizing upcoming sessions. We also will be having some APIs for onboarding the health facilities and the professionals in the registries. We come to the second part for the announcements. Partnership between ABDM and integrators help to bridge the existing gap amongst the different stakeholders of ABDM ecosystem. To acknowledge and appreciate this participation, NHA awards the integrators who have successfully completed the integration process with an appreciation certificate and an ABDM integrated logo. ABDM website dedicates a page for such partners. This will also act as a marketplace for any budding entity or startups or hospital chains to look for the HMIs or LMIs that would fulfill their healthcare centers requirement. This is still being improvised. Hence, the plans to add in more feature offerings, demo links. So just a few of these features I have just listed down. Basically, in short, this will be like one-stop solution for the healthcare sector. So this is how the logo and the certificate looks like. And this is our partners page, which can be visited. The link is also shared here. It's on the ABDM website with our partners page. During many of our interactions with the integrators, we found that more clarity was required in terms of what integration to be done, and what will be beneficial to the participating healthcare entity, eventually creating impact in this digital revolution in our country's healthcare ecosystem. So this slide has very basic use cases defined. However, having said that, the scope is unlimited and ABDM expects the market to bring in innovative use cases. So now we come to the interactive sessions Q&A. Kiran, would you like to add some points before we actually move to the interactive session?
No, I think we can start. So I think we'll start with what we are working on and some of the areas of improvement. And also I will take up first the queries that we have received through the Google Forms. And then we can go to any other queries that are coming in through chat and through the open houses, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think thank you everyone for participating in today's open house. The idea was that as a background, I think we have been trying to support several of you through the dev forum and several integrators also through one-on-one interactions. And we are definitely aware that there can be significant improvements in our own documentation on ABDM, and you will see that we are making steps and we are taking steps to make sure that it can improve so that the integration experience becomes easier for all of you. It's very important to note from the announcements that before we get to this interactive session part, if you can stop sharing the screen, Meenakshi, I would like to make sure that we explain a couple of things. So I'll share my screen.
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So I think before we come to this part, I think it's important to all of you will also receive a document, and this will shortly be updated. Vikram sir or somebody can confirm, did the document on the new features go out to everybody already on email?
No, not yet. Not yet, Kiran.
Okay, all right.
It will go today. It will go today for sure.
Yeah, sure. All right. So I think I'm just going to then share my screen and quickly talk through some of these new features that we have released in February, so that people who are closely following ABDM can benefit from some of these pieces. Just give me a second. I hope people can see my screen. Can somebody confirm?
Yes, Kiran.
Yeah.
No, Kiran, not yet.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Yes, you can see.
Yeah. All right. So just broadly, all of you.
No, we are not able to see. No, sir, we are not able to see.
Unable to see.
Okay.
No.
Let me share again.
I can see, sir.
I think there is some
maybe
problem. Some
the
people are able
network
to see.
Yeah, I suspect that some of you might be having a network issue and it might load up in
Now
a
it is visible.
Yeah,
Screen is visible.
Now,
good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll just quickly, all of you, like I said, you will receive this document also in your email box, and it's also going to be uploaded on the ABDM Sandbox. So fundamentally, we have made a few areas of improvement for those who are actively integrating. For those who are new to ABDM, bear with me because some of this may not be very clear to you. So, we will try to help you through that idea. So one of the core areas of challenges in the last couple of months for people who have finished integration, especially people who have an EMR or a LMIS system, has been in being able to bring on board health facilities that are using their software. So, we have been dealing with several of you who have multiple facilities who use your software, and you have been struggling with our old process of trying to get that facility to register in HFR and then linking your software. So what we have done is we have tried to reduce the friction with this new process. In the new process, we are providing new APIs where you as a health repository provider, that is any entity that has cleared M1 and M2, can now say which are the facilities. You can declare and register health facilities using a simple API call. That's number one. Two, you can then say that I am the person who will handle the ABDM records from this facility. So you can also link that facility. That's the part of the changes that we are giving. Second, we are trying to make ABDM popular in the market. So in a minute, I'll talk about a new initiative about how we are trying to make ABDM very popular in the market. As part of that, we expect anybody who's creating a new health record to now notify ABDM whenever there is a new health record. So that's the second API that is now available that we would like people to use. As Meenakshi shared, we are trying to provide a lot more clarity into what are the test cases that are required for you to make your software compliant. We have recently reviewed all the test cases that should be part of the M1 milestone and the M2 milestone. So these have been published and they're already on the ABDM website. So for integrators who are looking to clear M1 or M2, we will request you to please take a look at these revised test cases. We are currently actively reviewing test cases for M3 and for PHR apps, and I expect that we will be publishing that in a week or less.
Sorry to disturb you, sir. Can I just have one query here, sir?
Yes, yes, please.
This modified APIs, which are there as part of milestone 2,
Yes.
is not altering the existing services, I hope, sir.
No, it doesn't. It
Okay.
just only provides more clarity on what needs to happen.
Yeah, because since we have already developed and used all the services,
Yeah.
I hope
So
that again rework should not be.
Yeah. So there is, for example, one of the things that we have found is that many of the implementers in M2 may not have implemented the discovery response correctly. So we have added some additional test cases to make sure that, for example, the way you are handling the discovery response. And so this document also talks a bit about how the response to the discovery API should be. So those are the kind of changes that we have done. There is no, if there is a change in the signature of the API, I'll call it out. So there is only one API where we have two APIs where we have changed the signature in a way that is not backward compatible. In such a case, we have deprecated the old API and we have introduced a new API. And there is only one such API that we have done as part of the Feb release. Okay. So, and then we have done some enhanced search. So you can.
Sir, actually, this modified API, whatever is there, that has been already reflected in the sandbox?
Yes, it is already reflected in the sandbox. So since we are talking about the modified API is for the update notified 2. So currently there is a API called vSMS patient SMS just notify, and that API has been deprecated. And now we expect integrators to use V05 patients SMS notify 2. So what is the change? The change is actually we are asking for lesser amount of information from a privacy perspective. The previous API used to provide the name of the patient, a type of health record, and so on. Since we want to make sure that we go towards a more privacy preserving part, we have actually removed certain parameters and actually reduced the construct of this, which is why we have made it a separate API structure. Okay. So people who have integrated, have to, are expected to.
There are two versions of APIs, like version 1 and version 2. We are using version 1.
There is no, there is no version change. We are still, for the gateway related APIs, we are still on V0.5. Because there is no version change, we have just deprecated one and introduced a second API. The old API will continue to work as long as you are continuing to integrate with V0.5. But we expect at some point in time, new integrators should use only the new API and existing integrators can migrate in a reasonable period of time.
So while we'll be doing the migration, again, we need to go for the sandbox testing?
No, it is not required for production people. This one is a very minor change, and we can tell from our logs and our audits, and in fact our teams will start monitoring, and because we have a few people who have gone live into production, at this point we are able to go back and engage with the ones who are gone live, and we will make sure that all of you have migrated at some point. We don't see this as something that requires a recertification.
Kiran, one more question. Like for M1, we have used version 1 APIs.
Yes.
So, but still we have version 2. So, do you suggest to migrate us to version 2?
So for those of you who are, we have published a bunch of health ID APIs also as part of the test suite. One of our recommendation at this point is that all integrators and most integrators would likely to have just done a few use cases. So we would recommend that everybody stays with V1. If there is a reason why somebody is looking for a V2 API, please let us know on the health ID API set. Yeah. So, but let me just finish my updates and then we can get into some of these interactive queries. I hope this construct is clear. I will not get into the details. You will get this document for how you can register an API. But at the simplest level, the idea is that you can register a facility with very minimal information. So we have only a very few parameters that we need you to pass to register a health facility, and then you can actually link that facility with your software, with the gateway, and get them live on the ABDM ecosystem. This is one change. The other change is for people who are building PHR apps. So here is the point I was talking about, that there is a set of revised test cases for people trying to get production access. You can see these test cases on sandbox.abdm docs.integration process and exit. And like I said, there are some key improvements to note. Specifically, we are asking all HRPs to review how they have implemented the discovery API. It is quite important that in a discovery, somebody who has just providing a mobile name, age, and gender should be able to find records that may be held by your software. And so that's an important thing that we would like all of you to review. And finally, if you are building a PHR apps, we have enhanced one API, which we think based on the feedback we were getting was important, and that is the provider search API. So now when you search for facilities who may be part of the ABDM ecosystem, you will get additional information, including the address, the state, the PIN code, the latitude and the longitude. And we hope this is going to make it more easier for your PHR app experience to create better user experiences for the users. Now, I'd like to switch topics to what are we doing to try to kind of accelerate the ecosystem for adoption. So this is called kickstarting the PHR market, and I'll take a couple of minutes in terms of where we are putting our focus so that we can get the market going. See, the first thing that we are saying is right now in the construct of a PHR, the maximum value is going to be the ability for any of the patients to view a health record on their mobile after they visit any healthcare facility. And so we are going to focus a lot on this particular use case. We think that once we have done this use case and then consumers discover that whichever healthcare provider they're going, they can use the same PHR app for collecting their records and creating a history. And we think that will take a certain amount of time for that experience and that knowledge to build up in the market. And it's only beyond this stage, really, that construct of sharing, saying, hey, when they go to a doctor, they will say, look, I have all my health records and I would like to share with you, will emerge. So given this thinking that we think the market is likely to evolve like this, ABDM is putting a lot of focus on use case one and enabling use case one. I should also share with you that we understand that what we are doing right now is very good only for people at the top of the pyramid. This is for people who have smartphones, but that's also a fairly large portion of India. We have a separate program in place on how do we essentially enable this for people who have feature phones or non-smartphones in terms of our experience. I'll quickly share with you one slide and then we can get it going. Now the focus for our experience is that we are saying that, look, when a patient is going today, patients today do not have an understanding of ABDM. They will go to a health facility and they will simply register what they do today, which is they'll register with a mobile name, age, and a gender with the health facility. And what we want is, if the health facility is participating in ABDM, we would like the health facility and therefore in proxy the HRP software that is used by the health facility to notify ABDM whenever there is a new health record. So it does not matter that the fact that the patient did not provide a PHR address at the point of registration. All we are seeking is a notification which says, hey, for this patient who has given me a mobile number, there is now a new health record. And what ABDM will do is it will send the users something called a SMS with a deep link. The SMS will say, this facility is now participating in Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. Your report at this facility is now ready. You can see your record by clicking on the link below. And the link is what we call as a deep link. So if the user was to click on the deep link, we will actually show a page which has all the apps, PHR apps that have cleared the ABDM sandbox exit and gone into production, and the user can click on any application of their choice. If the application is already installed on the phone, it will launch the application. If the application is not installed on the phone, it will essentially go to the Play Store or the App Store and allow the user to download that application. Now, on downloading the application, if this is a new user, we expect the PHR app to help the user to create their PHR address, which means they will be able to just create a PHR address using their mobile name, age, and gender on the app. And then we expect, because the invocation happened through what we call as a deep link, we expect the PHR app to now make a discovery request. And the discovery request will then go back via ABDM to the facility that sent the initial notification. So in the discovery request, the PHR app will share the mobile number, the name, the age, and the gender. And then, as with any discovery response, we expect that the health facility will properly respond to it and show the health records that's available for the user. In this response, of course, it can not only show the current health record that triggered the transaction, but also all historical health records that the health facility may be holding for the user. And the user will then be able to obtain these records, view those records on the PHR app, and get them linked to their PHR address. So this is what we are focusing on in terms of getting the experience right. So we would request those of you who are playing the role of a health facility or a HRP, understand this use case and make sure that you are able to do it. And those of you who are playing the role of a PHR app also understand this use case and get this experience right. We are all here to make sure that this use case works really well. I'm happy to share with you that there are a lot of entities who are actively participating in ABDM, and we expect to see this particular use case go live in the next 2 weeks. We have several people who have cleared the PHR app integration, several of you who have cleared the health facility integration, and so we expect that this use case will go live in the market and will start building up the number of people who start experiencing ABDM on their device. So with that, I'm going to stop, and I can see that there are a few hands up. So we'll start with, let me just pull up the list of people and I'll just call out in the order. So we have, if I can have Abhishek go first.
Hey Kiran, Abhishek here. So great to see some of these new things that you're doing. And I noticed that you have mentioned that, through the deep link, a list of applications would be shown to the user. I wanted to understand what would be the logic to order these applications so that it doesn't create an unfair advantages for apps who are shown on the upfront and other who are below the fold.
Yes. So the list is shown always in a random order. Every invocation shows the list in a random order.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Abhishek. We have Paritosh Singh.
Yeah, Kiran, this is Mani here. Paritosh is working in Siemens along with me, just to give you this. Yeah, over to Paritosh.
Yeah, hi Kiran, I'm Paritosh. So we had a few doubts actually. We were trying to implement and follow the wonderful webinars that you had posted, and very helpful. But a few things that were not working was, so basically we were trying a get data application which was on the PHR app, right? That was not working. So, and we also posted this query on test forum.
Yeah, but, so if I might, and for all the others who have raised their hand, I will come to the list of technical queries on specific APIs and queries that have been posted to me. But can we restrict the queries right now to the ones of the 2 updates that I have just shared, which is how we are doing a registration with HRP, that is the new registration process, or the ABDM PHR experience, please. So Paritosh, I'll come back to you, and if you don't mind, you can raise your hand again.
Yeah.
Can I request all those who have raised their hands only to have queries on these 2 areas right now? So Sanjit. Vimal.
Yeah, Kiran. Actually, I have technical queries not related with the registration.
Okay, so I'll come back to you. We'll come back to that again, Sanjit. Don't worry. We'll be here as long as required. Monjit, Vasu.
Our use case is a little different regarding the when we are seeking the consent, so we are seeking on a per patient basis. I was wondering if it is possible to have bulk data which is pre for consent, for example, for research and statistical analysis, which can be retrieved in one or of API calls, having to go through multiple API calls, because for a statistics data analytics type of research, that may be a little more convenient. That was the one question. The other question was, we have a say we are building a software. So we are testing it against ABDM. So we are using our credentials, which has been supplied by the ABDM. So once we build the software, we will actually deploy it on other users. So maybe another hospital, another research center. So can they substitute their credential in place of mine, and the software should be working, or otherwise it will not be scalable. So that was another question I had. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think this is it's a very generic question, Monjit, and I just would like to say that all of the APIs and the whole architecture that we have currently provided are for consented access of a single individual with purely personal health data, which means there is absolutely no anonymization, aggregation of data happening. ABDM is working on a separate architecture on how you can actually get anonymized and aggregated data, and I would request you to wait for that architecture, because that's also going to be compliant with what are all the upcoming laws. And at this point, we have not yet announced any approaches for anonymization or aggregation as part of ABDM. As far as the production keys are concerned, we do have the construct of health repository providers. In fact, health repository providers use their production key and their production access to help other entities in the market to become HIPs. So yes, that construct of you having to do it for others, it does exist. Can I move to Arpita Patil?
Thank you.
Arpita?
Hello.
Yes, Arpita.
Yeah, so my question was in our software we have a feature of storing the report of the patient digitally. So we already store the digital report in one database. So still, do we have to create the health repository provider, or whatever we use there only we can implement the APIs?
In whatever you use, you can implement the APIs. No? That's what you will become a health repository provider, since you are a software that is holding health records.
Okay.
In the ABDM thinking, you are a health repository provider, and so we would expect you to implement the ABDM APIs for sharing the health data on demand with consent.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Arpita.
Yeah. Thank you.
After this, Kiran, we can also take various questions in the chat box. So
yeah, we can do that. In fact, I am not seeing questions specific to what I presented. Maybe what we can do, sir, is if you don't mind, folks, we will answer the queries that we got through the Google.
Yeah. So with hi Kiran.
We can come back to the generic open house. So,
Yeah, so hi Kiran, I had a specific question with regards to the workflow that you presented.
Yeah,
so
please do.
We had made M1, this is Ronak from Pagaria. So we had made M1 to M3 live, but we are waiting for the HPR and the HFR APS to go live. So one question in that regard was, now with the APIs being available, is it possible for us to create facility IDs and doctor IDs for doctors in bulk? Because as I understand, for the doctors
not
to
for
even
doctors, no. We have not released any API for you to create doctors in bulk, but we have created APIs for you to register facilities in bulk.
Okay. So even if in case I have a facility ID, I can still map that record to the facility ID for the time being.
No, it's always the case. So whenever you're sharing health records at this point, you're always sharing it against you're getting it against a health facility.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is no concern there, and that's the way the architecture is currently working. So please take a look at the APIs and you can give us feedback if it works for you or not. Aditya, which organization are you with?
Hi Kiran, I'm speaking from Aditya's system. Aditya is with me. We are joining in from Tata Trust. We are implementing electronic health records in public health system. So Kiran, my name is Shantanu. I was curious to understand. See, there is in public health system there are a lot of solutions floating, and when we did a kind of a small analysis, because we want to implement electronic health records in sub-center level, sub-center and the primary health center level.
Exactly.
Now my query was that are there some specific solutions already available which are aligned to the digital health or ABM? See, at one side we are also implementing the CPHC HWC platform, the NCD platform.
Sure.
But that also is not an EHR per se, right?
Yeah.
So
we understand this, Aditya, and probably this is not the best forum for this. We have a separate team that actually deals with government and public health integration. You can, yeah, and we can connect you with them. So Shantanu, please feel to reach out to Vikram sir. There is also Kiran Gopal sir's and team who actually handle that. And there is already active engagement with most of the software providers for public health systems, whether it be RCH, whether it's NCD, whether it is Nikshay, and we have been guiding those technical teams on how to get any health data that they are holding in their systems to become part of ABDM and start sharing the same with their patients. So we will take that separately, Aditya, and it's a very important area for ABDM. We have a separate program track within. I think yeah.
Okay, Kiran, thank you so much. Thank you.
Kiran.
Hey, Kiran, I have a question relating to the workflow you presented earlier.
Yes.
So our use cases, so basically our organization is a HIU, and the information that will come to us will basically be at the second step. So registration is done at the medical facility, but then we again.
When you say your organization is HIU, can you tell me, are you a PHR app or are you a health facility which is seeking records with consent?
We are basically going to be a health facility, but not exactly. So it will be health facilities working with us, who will be providing the patient's information, and also we are trying to provide them a portal or a platform where they can register patients, right? So in this case, do we also have to implement this back and forth? I mean, in informing the ABDM when the patient is registered?
You need to do that if you are a HIP, that is if you are creating a health. If you are only trying to access health records, no, it is not applicable to you.
Okay, so we are trying to create health records for our system, but not necessarily with.
I don't understand for our system, but generally the principle is if you are dealing with patients and in that interaction with a patient, if you are creating any health information that you would like to share with the patient, then you have to implement the APIs that make you a HIP or a HRP. And you need to start sharing that health data by linking it with their PHR address, right? So as part of that, yes, in such a scenario, you will notify ABDM because you are becoming a health repository provider. It's a different use case if you're saying, I just want to access the patient's data and the patient's history.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Sasi, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, Kiran, this is Ram from Care India.
Yeah, Ram.
I would like to have the PHR experience from perspective, but we also support, like Tata Trust, Care India is also supporting public health related work, strengthening, especially strengthening public health related.
if you could connect along with the Tata Trust as also, it will be helpful. From the PHR.
Can I request just 1 second on that? Vikram sir, who should be the nodal point that anybody who wants to deal with public health systems, who should they get in touch with? Can we put that on the chat? Maybe a contact point for people working with public health systems?
I will do that. Public health systems, you mean government hospitals or charitable?
No, sir. Actually, so what is happening is there are the entities who are signed on, or many of them are either NGOs or trusts that typically support state governments or others with software for their public health programs. So we would need to make sure that our government track is also in touch with them and is able to support them. So we just need to give them a connect to our government track team.
Yeah, I think we can give Gaurav Agarwal's access details to them, and if there is anything that they feel they need to reach out, they can reach out to the integration.support. But I would request my team members to please give his email ID and phone number in the chat box.
Thank you, Kiran. That would be helpful. So going forward, we can actually actively support the public health system. My question related to PHR experience. So, for example, rural setup, you will have one phone number for the family, and you may have multiple health IDs in the family. In that particular experience, how the what is the thought process from the PHR?
This is already supported, Ramakrishna, and maybe you can get into some of the technical details, but we allow against a single mobile number for multiple PHR addresses to be created even today. And as long as the combination of mobile number plus name plus age plus gender is different, we always allow for a second PHR address to be created against the same mobile number. So there is no concern with that use case. And we definitely understand that a single mobile number can be used by multiple family members in India.
Any restriction like COVID 4 people or any restriction or any number?
There is a restriction, the same restriction of 4 is there.
4 number. Thank you. That's what I might question.
Sure. So, yeah, Shashi.
Sorry, Kiran, I will not take much time. We are in the stage 1, and we are trying to achieve the milestone 1. Typically, our problem is we have hosted our solution in AWS. So we tried to register a patient, and we were successfully able to call your APIs. And the callback APIs are not happening. We tried posting the questions, and we sent multiple.
It's an AWS firewall issue, guys. I have seen this with other integrators also. I would like you to first try registering your callback URL to a webhook URL. And are you getting callbacks on webhook?
The webhook, yes, we are getting the callback URL.
Then the issue is not on our end. I can fairly certainly tell you that. The issue is with how your firewall is set up on AWS. And there is nothing, I mean, I'm not the expert on that. If there is somebody else on the dev forum who can help you and guide you, but your incoming requests from our gateway are definitely blocked on some firewall in AWS.
Okay. Just to add on to that, we worked with the AWS guys also, and we enabled everything, and we tried to set up within our office. We doubted that AWS is doing something, and we put an in-house server and we tried doing it. In that also, we are not getting the callback URL. AWS, we kept it aside. We did the setup inside the office, and we tried it out. We faced the same issue.
Okay, so I will request that if you can send an email to integration.support with either the dev form link for what is the backend with your client ID and the URL. I'll have when we have the bandwidth, because we are definitely very bandwidth constrained, and these are the most difficult things for us to debug because much of it is not in our control. We don't think it's typically an issue on our side, but I will see if we can get this looked at, guys.
Okay, fine. Thanks, Kiran.
Yeah, thank you.
Just for a change, can we take some questions from the chat box?
So chat box, sir, can I just ask Meenakshi to please put up the slide? I would like to make sure that people who send their questions in advance, we just quickly address.
Yeah, makes sense. Meenakshi.
Yes, I would do that, Kiran. Just a second.
Hey, Kiran, this is Shubhakash. Meanwhile, Meenakshi, pull up the slides. Can I have one question?
Please do.
Do you use my question in regards with the AWS platform? So do you use any specific ports, or do you need to enable in the
all our callbacks are on HTTPS, so standard ports.
So 449 it's the standard one, which that's enough, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, fine, fair enough. It should work. Let's see.
Yeah. So I think query number one that we have, and a lot of people are getting this, especially when they are trying to call the health ID API. So I think this is poor documentation on our part. If you are planning to use the health ID APIs, you will actually need to make a request for the health ID role to be assigned to your client ID. So this is the most common problem. So, and you do that by sending an email.
Which I format. No, it's okay.
And we will essentially, our team will then enable the role for your client ID so that you can start using the health ID APIs. That's the most common error. Now, in terms of the API versions to be used and the API sequence, what we have done is for the M1 and M2 and as well as for health ID, we have now put up a Excel sheet which also contains the API sequence and is available on the Sandbox documentation. We will request all of you to quickly take a look at it, and if there is still an issue, then we can try to address. For the health ID APIs, we would request all of you to just stick to V1. I think only the health ID has V1 and V2 at this point. So request all of you to just stick to V1. If there is a reason why you are trying to use something in V2, do let us know and we'll see why you're trying to make that happen. Now, how to get a HIP login, generation of a XHIP ID and a XHIU ID. So the XHIP ID in our construct is basically the health facility ID. Now, even on our test environment, we have a setup called EMR SBX, where we have set up some XHIP IDs. But basically, if you are a software that manages, let's say, think of something like a cloud hosted software that's managing multiple facilities. When we send you a request, the XHIP ID tells you which facility is this request for in your set of facilities that you have. In production, the XHIP ID is an ID that comes from our health facility registry. So without registering a facility in the health facility registry and then linking that health facility registry ID with your software, you will not be able to manage or provide health records for a particular facility. So the F token, I think, is called a facility token, and it is typically generated upon a facility login. I don't know why people would be using this API. It was mostly for health ID scenarios, but we would love to understand in what scenario are you trying to use this token. I think on the null response, the most common problem that we have seen is with the headers, you might be missing either the word bearer. I know that, for example, some of our APIs do take the word bearer in front of token, some of them don't. So there could be certain documentation issues on our end that's also causing some confusion on this. We have tried to respond as much as possible, and over time we are actually fixing that to make sure that they're consistent, but that's what it is. So this last one will require some debugging. If it is working for you in Postman, I hope most of you have also got access to our Postman collection. We released a Postman collection a couple of months back to make sure that everybody has a copy of some of the APIs that are working and samples of the working API. But if you're still facing issues, the only way we can support you is through the Postman. I would like to now just quickly move to the queries on chat and see if there are specific ones that we can help address before we move to really open areas.
Yes, I can start with that. Hiren Thakkar had asked, we are trying to create health ID using mobile number API.
This is an issue with his role access. So I think we have answered this query for Viren.
Okay, great.
Hello.
Yeah.
This is Dr. Siddharth. We have developed a medicalbook.in platform on the same basis of ABDM, and now we have come to know we have been trying to integrate it. I'm joined here with my developer and co-founder, Jewel Sengupta. So we have been very busy getting into funding and onboarding into STPI Lucknow, MedTech in Lucknow. And our platform generates a unique ID by itself, a random number generator, alphanumeric this thing. So how do we and we segregate our records of the.
I think we lost it.
So the prescriptions are. Hello.
Yeah, Siddharth, these are very basic integrated questions. Have you gone through our webinar?
No, not exactly. We have been getting into. I mean, we've been trying to get into somebody to help us integrate, because I'm not a technical person, and I've just designed a product where I'm using it actively, commercialize it, and getting some traction also through this thing. But we are not getting enough traction to attract the investors and the hospital or the private. So if you get a certification from you through your milestone things which we go on, so from that we are trying to get the traction.
Let me warn you that investors don't yet understand ABDM, and
okay. We are also we want to develop a product and. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So I think we'll be super happy, and we'll put it up saying, we'll tweet about it saying Siddharth got funded because he got ABDM certified. But unfortunately, this is not the forum for us to support you. My suggestion is, there is enough material that you can start with on our Sandbox to understand what it is that you need to do, and then maybe when you're getting into a little more technical issues, we'll.
I know this is a technical forum. I think my developer has completely understood, but I'm a little bit I'm not a technical person. So we were trying to get into ABDM so that we can integrate with the COVID app. So we have a vaccination tracker in our profile, in a patient profile. So where all the vaccination, not only the COVID vaccination, but the patients can themselves can upload all the vaccination from birth kind of thing. So as we start. So those things, can it be done through APIs? That was our main purpose of getting into ABDM, so that we can get integrated with the COVID app. So any patient who creates a profile with his Aadhaar number or a mobile number, and if we are integrated with the ABDM, can all his vaccination record be downloaded into our platform? I mean, I know it's technically not this thing, but this is what we are looking for through integration with ABDM. Is it possible like that?
CoWIN records for immunization definitely are available through both ABDM and directly through APIs from CoWIN. And if you can figure out the technical side, definitely what you're saying is possible. Yeah. So, Siddharth, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to cut you off because this is not. No problem. I don't want to waste everybody else's time.
No problem. No problem.
Actually, I just have a small query. So you just said about the health ID APIs that we should use V1. So actually, we have used the V2 calls for that. So is there any problem in we're using V2 calls, or it's good?
Well, we will continue to support it, but we are advising most people to use V1.
Okay, and the second thing about the PHR app, actually, so we are implementing the PHR app, and we are getting a lot of issues regarding the documentation.
Yeah.
So we aren't getting the what sequence, what are the parameters that need to send, these things. So the documentation is not clear.
Rahul, we are quite aware of it. The two available request. So the only documentation or the support essentially postman collection, and we have been doing calls with all who are getting stuck as much as possible. And I think I've done some with you. You're from Raxa, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So as you know, that's the best support that you can get and the best documentation we can. And as and when we have onboarded, for most people on this call, there is a new organization from a tech perspective, and what we call as a managed services provider who's being onboarded to help the government to manage the ABDM for the next 5 years. And we hope to have a lot more resources on our side, but till they are fully onboarded, which will take another couple of months, we are working on a very, very tight number of people to provide support for integrators. So you'll have to bear with us as we kind of go through this phase, right?
Thank you.
This is Prasad here. So you just mentioned that it is about V1. So, so is there any specific region that V2 has been there? Because I mean, we were concentrating on V2, and then because obviously it's the next version, so we think that okay, that is the more updated version.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No, that's fine. There is no. So if see 90%, if you look at the API set on V1 and V2, you may find more than 120 plus APIs on the Health ID site. Most integrators use about 10, at best 12 of those APIs. And between V1 and V2, there are very little differences on those 10 or 12 APIs. So we are not usually very worried about that. But like I said, our advisory at this point is to stick to V1. We will continue to provide backward support for V1 and V2 for quite some time. We are in the process of working on a V3, and at some point we will expect most of you to migrate to V3.
Just to request that whenever, I mean, if any APIs is getting lost in between, then if possible, I mean, if it is some kind of documentation also there, because we try like PHR address. So when we tried on PHR address, what happened after 2 days, it's gone. Now we have implemented and then it is not coming. So if something is getting out, because somewhere we need to know that whether it's which one to pick from V1, which one to pick from V2. We can't be like both combined. So I think some kind of documentation we request.
Yeah, you should not be combining those APIs. So if you are doing that, there is something amiss. Please stick to one of them, and it should work in all of those cases, right? And if you are not, please do post something, and we will take a look at those issues on dev form. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Kiran. Myself, Rajiv from Rockstar. Our ABDM application is just approved for production as a health tech. So what are the steps we have to follow to access the production API?
Can you repeat that question for me from the Rockstar team?
Yeah. So what are the steps we have to follow to access the production API?
Have you finished? Have you got your production keys?
Yes, we have got the production keys, secret key and the client ID.
Yeah, so then I think you can use them. Please test them against the production. The only thing you need to do is on all the URLs that you've been using, please remove the word SBX, and on the IDs that you're generating, please use @ABDM, and that's about it. You are ready to go.
Okay, and we have to register as an HIP first, right? Before using the API.
Are you using this to share health records?
Yes.
So then you need to register. Yes, then you need to register the health facilities that you are providing your services to.
Okay. And
so
then
the new document that we are sharing today, you can now do that through APIs again. So take a look at the new document that we are going to circulate on mail later today, and you will be able to actually register the facilities and get started. The XHIP ID in your header of the integration that you have done will have to match a health facility registry ID.
Okay. And we are also getting the unauthorized error on the production API. So that was just we have to access the HID role?
No. If you're getting unauthorized for what? For creating a session? For which API are you getting unauthorized?
No, we are able to create the session, but just generate OTP. That's the
same. That's the HID role issue.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Raji?
Yes. Yeah, it's fine. Thank you.
Yeah. So Prasad?
Hi. Yeah, I've asked that V1 and V2 questions at that time, and I have other questions on the consent manager, but I think this is not relevant right now.
Okay. Sasi?
I read the question. You answered me.
Okay. Thanks so much. Prasad? Prasad Satya?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I just pinged you.
Oh, okay.
I just
told you. Can you please lower your hand because it's still showing it to me in the list?
Oh, it's still showing. Okay, sorry.
Thanks. Abhinav Goel?
Yes, sir, I had a doubt regarding the use case of PHR apps. Sir, as you showed in the step 5, with the deep link, the patient can integrate the current record with any of the apps listed. So
Yes.
that would provide to basically categorize his health records into different apps depending on his use case or something like that. I mean, like suppose if he uses one link to access through Arogya Setu app, another link to access through PTM. So that would create two different entities of records in two different apps. So is that actually possible, or is that?
Yeah, no, it is definitely possible if the user decides to use a different name, different mobile number, and so on. But we expect that if you were to provide the same mobile number, name, age, and gender, you will be able to, it will come back to you and say you already have a PHR address for this particular one. So it will not allow you to accidentally create a duplicate. So we have looked at that use case, and our APIs and the use cases do support that flow.
Okay. Sir, another issue that I had was that I had gone through the entire blueprint of National Digital Health Mission. So, sir, the main concerns in the blueprint were preventive healthcare. So, how are we? How is ABDM approaching this preventive healthcare depending on the user case?
Not the forum for this, yeah. If you don't mind, we'll stick to technology for today, and we'll find another aspect to talk about the strategic and other aspects. Thanks, Abhinav. Amit Kumar Yadav.
Kiran, what is the difference between when you are calling the API from your bridge and services and the facility registry that we have mentioned just now? Because in the bridge services, when you're taking the facility, we are taking very few attributes.
I am lost, madam. Can you repeat this question?
Actually, I would like to know the difference between the API which you are calling through bridge services, okay, and the bulk facility registry that we have mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. So in the ABDM architecture, we have a entity that's called the Health Facility Registry. The Health Facility Registry holds all the data of the various health facilities. Now, you can be in the Health Facility Registry whether you decide to participate in ABDM or not. So think of a lab that says, hey, I am a lab. I am here in this location. This is my address. This is my contact number. These are the services I offer, and so on. But when a lab decides that it wants to share its health records in an interoperable fashion, that is when you need the Bridge Services API, which is basically an entry which says the lab is using this ABDM certified software to manage its health records and share its health records in the ecosystem. I hope that helps you answer that question.
Yeah, but say for one of the state, we have already registered the health facility. Okay. Okay. So that includes all the lab also. So hope then we don't have to get into the bridge services because it has been, registered from the back.
No, just being on HFR doesn't mean that you are on the bridge.
Okay.
So which software is used by that health facility?
That's an in-house software.
Okay, so now is that in-house software ABDM compliant? Has it passed M1 and M2 and has got
M1 it has passed, and we have put that M2 in the sandbox.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after you complete M2 is when you should link that health facility that you registered in the state with your endpoint URL for your software so that you can service the health records for it.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I get Apurva Bhaskar?
Kiran, Amit here. Sorry.
Yeah, Amit.
Yeah. So I have a question. It's not a technical, it's related to the certifiers only. So going forward, are the entities like the HIPs and HIUs will carry the two certificates? Like one the NHA will give or another the certifiers? It's kind of that?
No.
No,
So
right?
the role of the certifier is to, if you remember our exit process, our exit process requires the committee to essentially get a functional test report and a security test report.
Right.
The role of the certifiers is to help integrators to get the functional test report and the technical security report.
What's the report?
Yeah. Once you provide the report to them, they will come and submit it to NHA, because this transaction is not happening through ABDM Sandbox. We expect it to be a private relationship between the certifiers as well as the integrators, that they will go to choose any certifier to get their solution certified. You will provide the functional and the security reports. They will bring those reports back to NHA. NHA will say, okay, this is coming from a valid certifier and a valid person who has a, who is allowed to do VASA testing, and then they will simply provide the keys going forward. Unlike today, where they are also taking the responsibility of functional testing. Is that clear, Amit?
Yes, Kiran. So, any plan for the certifier when then they would be onboarding? What is the process?
We would like to happen, we will come back to, we have 3 empaneled certifiers at this point. And one of the things that we plan to do, and I hope we can do it in the next couple of weeks in February, is to come back to the 3 of you with a strong date by which we would like you to all go live. And at that point, we will also announce to the market that functional testing will move from us to the certifiers.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kiran. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kiran, one more question can I have?
Yeah, please, Apurva.
Yeah, actually, when we are calling that version 0.5 constant HIP notify, and then gateway version 0.5 constant HIP on notify, and again when we are calling version 0.5 health information HIP request, what is happening at times, we are getting multiple responses, though it is expected that we are going to get only one request.
I am not aware. You should ideally not be getting multiple callbacks. We'll have to take this offline, Apurva, but this is the first I've heard of multiple callbacks coming. We can have this debugged. If you don't mind, put a dev forum thing, and then you can send a mail also to it. But I will.
We have already put anyway. We'll send a separate mail to you. We have put in the dev.
All right. You can please do that. If you don't mind, with the dev forum link, you please drop a mail to integration support, and I will review that with the team.
Okay, sure.
Hi,
Raj,
Kiran. I have an issue. We were facing the same issue with multiple requests, but it got fixed when we started sending status OK, like 200 OK, and it was fixed.
I see. So there you go, Apurva. You have somebody else who has experienced it and helping you with it. Rajiv Agarwal?
Kiran, I have not completed my things. Actually, someone else has done that. Okay. Sorry. Kiran, actually, we are in process in integration with ABDM as HIP as well as HIU. Okay. For HIU, while calling that health request along with that public key and nonce, and that public key we generate through C# code. And while we are doing this call, we are not getting callback. Whereas if I create that public key and nonce using Java, at that time we are getting callback request.
This is for the encryption of the data packet, right?
Correct.
Yeah, a lot of integrators have complained that they are not able to translate that into multiple languages. What is the language you are trying to use?
C# we are using.
Yeah, C#. Yeah, I mean, I don't actually have, and if this is something that integrators have to contribute. To fix this, what we did was we provided a sample GitHub code, of course, written in Java, which you can host like a microservice that will help you kind of do it in Java, and so that you can continue. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, we are doing the same thing. Actually,
yeah. So I don't have, and we are not going to have anybody within ABDM look at multiple languages at this point. So unfortunately, if you crack it, please publish something on GitHub for the ecosystem too. We have had this issue trying to do it in PHP also, and they have also struggled with it.
Hello, actually, I was able to implement it complete all around within Node.js.
Okay.
But when getting the key pairs from the NDHM crypto API, it was not working.
I see.
So I was suspecting that the problem might be with the encoding or the type of the response which we are receiving. So is it possible that I may know the encoding of the key pairs?
Yeah, we can. This is at this point not something I can answer on this call, folks. So also from a priority perspective, I don't know whether we don't have a very strong team that can spend time on these cases at this point, but we will try to see if we can provide you support on this particular query, guys. So do again, I will make a note and my team will look at this particular one. This is specific to your encoding bit, I understand. So we'll come back to you. Thank you so much. Paritosh Singh.
Hi, Kiran. I'll just put the question on Paritosh's behalf. It's not a technical question, maybe quite an easy at a use case level. I just wanted to understand for facilities which have implemented the HIP, right? Are these facilities transparent in the sandbox? In the sense, can I get access to the facility?
Not on the sandbox one. So sandbox does not have any live facilities. So to simulate facilities, we have a software called EMR Sandbox. And for EMR Sandbox, we have it will provide you. There are multiple user IDs that we have published. I think we have published, and if we have not published, I think I need to make sure that the Sandbox team publishes the user ID passwords that we have created on EMR Sandbox. So if any of you are looking for passwords on EMR Sandbox and you are not finding it, please send a mail to integration support and we will mail you back user IDs and passwords for EMR Sandbox. Each ID represents a different facility, and essentially you can use EMR Sandbox to go in and create certain health records, link certain records, and then test your application against it if you're building a PHR app or you're building a HIU.
All right, that was my second question. In fact, I did mail for these credentials of EMR, HIP and HIU, and I didn't get any response. So, yeah.
But Meenakshi just mentioned that these credentials have been published on our website. We are sharing the link in the chat box.
Sure, thank you. And one final question. The evaluation process for the sandbox, is this also there on the website, or if you can throw some light on the...
Yes, absolutely. So for you to clear a production, it's called under the implementer's guide, please look at Sandbox Exit. There's one chapter on that. In that there are also very clear test cases that you need to make sure your software passes to be able to get production.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. So can I get, I think Dr. Pramod Jacob is next.
Hi, Kiran. It's actually a concern. Now, my understanding is that there is a HFR being built up, and I was looking at the data that you'll have actually been collecting for each of the facilities. I understand that this is probably for Sandbox, but I heard that you are going to go into production also later with this sort of a facility registry, and the information that is being collected per facility is very minimal. I remember in the HFR, document, they talked of firstly detailed information, and secondly, a verification process, which is going to be very important once you start hitting over 500 facilities and so on, right? So what's the plan for that?
That is still on, Dr. Pramod. We are just delinking the two. We are only allowing people who have built the software and are willing to start sharing records to do so with minimal information. But the whole process of making sure that the facility registry gets updated with more detailed information has not been taken away.
Okay, so that is even because you are going to production is what I understand with the minimal.
No, but yeah, it's only thing is that we are, for people to say that I'm going to take the effort to fill all these details in some software that a government has put up requires a strong driver and a use case of value for them. We are working on making sure that those values are seen so that people will actually come in and fill it out. At this point,
so basically, I'll pick people on board and then later you'll be. All right, thank you. Thank you for confirming that.
Can I get Krishna? Mr. Abhishek Kamal.
Sir, can you hear me? This is Krishna.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Sir, I just gone through the list of APIs which you shared in the Sandbox account. I didn't see the verification related sequence in that. Can you re-verify? I'm also trying to re-verify once again. If I have any doubt, I will anyway post in the dev forum.
What verification are we discussing here, Krishna?
No, in the M1 process, normally if the user come with a health ID, we need to verify whether this guy is exist or not. So
yes.
For that, the process of the sequence of APIs, I didn't find.
So basically, typically it is done using either there's a gateway API called auth in it. Yeah, Meenakshi? Yeah, so it's part of, please see in the Excel sheets we have released for the test cases, we have also released the API sequence and the APIs that need to be called. It's available there for sure. It's also, this part is also clearly documented in the Sandbox documentation under building a HI.
Yeah, got it, sir. Name called retrieve they have given, so I just single glance I saw. Okay, I got it, sir.
Yeah, Vishek Kamal.
Yeah, hi, sir. I'm Abhishek from Reliance Digital Health. So we are in process of integration with ABDM like HIP, HIU, and HRP also. So my question is regarding the care context. Like we have data of the patient like from last 5 to 10 years, which is not actually generated by us. It is like user has uploaded the report, which is generated by from some other hospitals or like other softwares. Now, how can I generate the care context for like that data?
Yeah, so that's up to you. You know, we have the whole idea of the care context is that it's very flexible, and you can decide to just create one care context and keep all the health records under it. You can decide to break it up. Our recommendation generally has been to club OPD records. Every OPD record, every OPD visit should have a care context, and every IPD visit should have one care context has been our recommendation. But there are no hard recommendations on how many health records should be within a care context. You can decide to put everything in, one care context, or you can decide to split it. You can split it over time. That will be better, so that there is some kind of a hierarchy. But once it is linked, it doesn't really matter. I hope that's clear, Mr. Abhishek.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Can I have Vaidyanathan, Arun Kumar, I think? Vaidhi? Yeah.
Hi, Grant. Yeah, I'm Arun here. So, once we create the health ID for a user, how does this data reach back? It reaches through the callback URLs, right? So, how we need to implement the callback, that I understand. But what is the triggering point for? As soon as one user is created using the like NDHM portal, automatically this user details are called using the callback API, or should there be a triggering point as a share?
See, the architecture is what we call as user control. So what that basically means is a user can create a PHR address, and then the user decides to share it with a health facility first. So the sharing can happen either at the time of registration, or they can share it from their PHR app through a process that we call as discovery. So there will be no triggers until the user decides to share a PHR address with the health facility. I hope that's clear.
This is even when we are creating the user ID on behalf of the user. Even when we are creating it in the portal, even then we can't get it back from NDHM, correct? That has to be shared with the user.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what you mean by saying you're creating it on behalf of the user. Generally, we discourage hospital softwares from creating a health ID unless you're doing it for in assisted mode, specifically for certain segments, ideally with Aadhaar. We don't want IDs, PHR addresses to be created, especially mobile name, age, and gender kind of PHR addresses to be created automatically in the backend through APIs from any system. We want it to be a conscious user controlled action. And this is very, very important in architecture. So I hope that Vaiti, we take it up more if I have not provided the right clarification. Can I go to Rafiqul Hasan?
Kiran, actually, we have asked a question and it got clear. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you lower your hand, Rohan?
Yeah, sure.
Kiran, I do have one query. Sagar.
Hello, am I audible?
We just want to know more about the digital locker and ability to get unique identifier for integrating and getting days from our healthcare vendors. Also, what is the expectation for maintaining? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you? So you
The
were
ability to get
locker.
The ability to get unique identifier for integrating and getting days from our healthcare vendors.
Integrating and getting what days?
Integrating and getting days, getting data from our healthcare vendors.
Yeah. So when you say you're creating a locker, you're creating a locker for a consumer, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So we are merging. One thing that people should know is that we are merging the concept of lockers and PHR apps. We expect PHR apps to essentially also play the role of locker going forward. So if you are creating a locker, I would advise you strongly to also look at what the roles and expectations of a PHR app are. There is no, if you're creating a PHR app, as long as the user decides to use your PHR app, that's the only time that you will be able to get access to any data of that user.
Yeah. Also, what is the expectation of mandating organization to share health data as long as there is a patient consent?
There is no mandate. As you know, ABDM is completely voluntary in nature. There's absolutely no mandates in place right now. So unless you can find and show value, nobody's going to decide to get things done. That's the reality.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Rohan, I think we heard Shubham BL.
Yes, Kiran, yeah, I'm about to ask a question. Yeah. So Kiran, I want to ask that, for health facility registry, so there is a use case where we are building a patient app and we want to, share this data with doctors as well. So doctor needs to share this data with patient. So in that case, do we want to register a doctor as a health facility here?
No, but the doctor has a clinic or something, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So then register the clinic. The doctor itself. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Shubham.
Hello. Yes, I'm Shubham from Bharat Electronics. So we are developing an application in which we act as both HIU and HIP. So currently we have done with our M2 milestone. So, like we were trying to test our HIP implementation through, there's a link given for a sample HIU.
Yeah.
Yes. So from that, actually, I was not, I was getting a 202 accepted response from the data push URL, but I'm not able to see the record on the like HIU side.
Have you checked your data with the FHIR validated tool that we have shown?
Yes, yes. Actually, I had done that also. So there are certain errors that come which pertain to the specific NRs, like specific data types that ABDM implements, which are not a part of the FHIR core implementation. So even with those, we are not getting the correct response.
Okay, could you please post this, including the data that you have created as a sample on the dev forum? Drop
We
a
have
link.
done that already. We have done that.
So drop an email with the dev link forum to integrators forum, and I will get the team to take a look at this particular use case too.
Okay. Can I get the email address? The
integration.
Just to add to Shubham.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Kiran. Yeah, this is Santoshi Ravichandran from Bharat Electronics Limited. Adding to Shubham's query. We have already raised the ticket for this particular issue.
choose करते हैं बड़े हैं वो फेस कट ये आपसे भी तो लगे मेरे पे भी बड़े अच्छे नहीं लगते मैं भी छोटे कोशिश करती हूँ ये भी इतना बड़ा सबसे छोटा
Can I request others to go on mute? Yeah, so the email ID is on the chat. It's called integration.support@nha.gov.in. Please drop a email for this particular dev forum issue, and we will see if we can prioritize supporting you on this. Like I shared, please be aware that we have a very small team at this point, and there is a limited amount of time that we are able to spend on some core issues, but we will try our best to provide the support. Jyoti, are you part of Bell team too, or can I get Jyoti Borkar?
Yes. Hi, Kiran. I'm Jyoti Borkar, a product manager from Cartinox.
Yeah.
I have a few queries related to the test cases which is being released recently. We are trying to achieve milestone 1. So we have few doubts regarding this. Can I ask here
Yeah,
the
please.
right forum?
It's a short one, yes. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I got many questions to be asked. Okay, so first one is say in test cases for existing patient or returning patient, okay, if there should be a system must compare demographic informations like name, age, gender, and should be able to save the data. If for same patient, what we did not understand what that meaning.
So basically, Jyoti, think of it like this. Let's say that the patient who's coming and sharing their PHR address is a returning patient in your software. Okay. So if let us say I come in and say my PHR address is Kiran MA at ABDM, but in your software it is actually saved in a completely different name. That is, you first found a patient which is for say Jyoti.
Okay.
We want you to do a minimal validation that you are not going to accidentally link a wrong PHR address with the user. That's all. That's the intent of that case.
Okay, in that case, can we allow them to save that address? No, if it is not matching, if they are same patient.
So we expect. So let us say I pull out a patient as part of the test case. I'll pull up a patient which is already registered, and I share a PHR address of a completely different person, which has a different demographic, different mobile number, different name, different gender. We will want your software to at least pop up and say, hey, are these really the same person? We are not forcing you to change anything, but we definitely want your software to catch that scenario.
Okay. Okay, and the second one is in case of a patient verbally shares health ID and
yeah, please go ahead, Jyoti.
In case of
unmute yourself, I'm just going to mute all for a second. Yeah, please go ahead, Jyoti. Please unmute yourself and start again, Jyoti. Jyoti, you need to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. I thank you for that. In case of above verification, okay, during patient registration, if the patient has shared health ID or the PHR address verbally, then we have in step case the explanation was given save ABA address and linking token. Okay, what linking token means
you need to understand what M2 is. Linking token is very important for HIP initiated linking. So whenever a new health record gets created for these users where you have a PHR address, we expect you to automatically link the records, and to do that you need the linking token. So recommend you to please read ahead and look at the M2 scenarios. You will understand it better.
Okay. Suppose if patient says in a third question is, suppose if patient says that I don't want to map my current information with the health ID related information, suppose.
Then why is he sharing a PHR address with you? What's the intent of the share?
Okay, no, just I want to ask whether he doesn't want to update the information which is
in the construct of ABDM, If a patient wants their health records digitally, that's the only time we expect them to share a PHR address with the healthcare provider. If they don't want it, they should share.
No. My query is something else. Like if they don't want to update their information as it is there in the health ID, but they want to, in that case, whether we can save the health ID number, right? Health ID or PHR address, like no need of.
Yeah. If the patient has shared it with you, there is no issue, ma. You can save it. There is absolutely nothing about saving. In fact, we want you to save it. And please remember that in ABDM, there are two controls which are on the user side. First is if they do not want records, they do not have to share their PHR address. Second, even if they have shared their PHR address and they don't want a record, we can allow them to unlink those records so that it's not part of their PHR. So both of these controls are there. So Jyoti, I think, I'm not sure about taking more questions from you at this point. So you can write separately to me or put it on the dev form and we'll try to definitely answer your queries. Yeah. Can I move to Sanjit?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kiran.
No problem. Sanjit?
Yeah, Kiran. Sorry. So basically, we have done our M2 and M3 development, and internally we are doing the testing, and it's going on, and we are about to finish in couple of days. In between that, what I have experienced, I want to share all those, and I want to know few things because we have faced this problem. So let's say first question is related to fire documentation. So even though file documentation is clearly written and it's well written, and there is a file validate, this validator jar also is there, which we can validate. But currently it's not working. So I'm not able to validate our generated file document and the document which we are receiving.
What do you mean by it is not working? We have not received this comment before. What do you mean by the validator is not working?
It's not running. So whenever we are trying to validate through validator jar, it's throwing error that one package is missing, not able to identify the package. Okay, I can share you the log.
Yeah, so please do that and please put this on dev form and also send a mail to integrator.support. We'll take a look at this. We have not got this as far as I understand. I don't think we have received this before from other integrators. So we'll take a look.
Yeah. Another question is, as per this documentation, there will be two types of fire documentation. One is structured and one is unstructured. So what I am feeling that unstructured means we are sharing the document in the file structure itself, but PDF document or whatever the documents are there.
That's
and
correct.
A structured document will have the data, right?
So for example, for a lab report, we would say expect you to provide output which has line codes in a structured format versus you sharing a PDF in a unstructured format.
Yeah, exactly. So currently we have done the development for the unstructured data. So we'll always share the unstructured data as of now. Okay, later on maybe we do further enhancement and we can do. And my question is
the right expectation, Sanjit. So we are going to work with most of you integrators as the next phase of this. Once you have actually got some initial traction and use cases going, our intent is to work with you to make sure that you move to structured data within a certain amount of time.
Okay, so as of now, there is no chance that we'll receive the structured data because I need to parse that to show within my application.
I mean, there are some integrators who are sharing and are willing to share structured data. So one of the things that we are trying to do is to create a database of FHIR bundles that are being exchanged on the system as samples so that you folks who are building viewers for health records can have access to more example FHIR bundles that will kind of get shared. So maybe a bit in the next open house or within the next couple of weeks, we should be able to come back to you with more samples. So on the sandbox, our intent is to create a set of samples from various HIPs who have done their integration so that we can say that, hey, here are more samples that you can use to test against your own code.
Okay. One frequent problem which we are facing, that we are not receiving the callback response in many of the API. I tell you one example, like we have raised the consent request and even we have approved from the PHR app, but didn't get the notification to our HIP or HIU both. So is there any mechanism that where we can track that what happened to this particular request?
Yeah, we have been thinking about building a interface where for your own transaction ID or request ID, you can look at the logs. But unfortunately, even our logs are, if we opened it up today, I think our opinion was that we will get more questions than easy answers, which is why we have not actually implemented that. But that's on our roadmap to do, which is to enable integrators to look at what happened on our side on their own without having to come back to us at this point. So we understand that the asynchronous system causes this issue where, it's for you, it's a black hole. You send something and if you don't receive something, you don't know why. And,
yes, and there is no mechanism where you can do retry. So there is no retry mechanism as per this architecture.
We are very aware of this problem at this point, Sanjit, and I wish I had a better answer, but all I can tell you is that it's on our roadmap to enable you to answer that better, but for the moment, you will need to stay with it. So the one request I would have is to see if it is working through the postman collection that we have sent. If the same API is working, so usually we find that 90% of the time there is some change in the parameters of what should actually be sent, which is what is usually causing this problem, and we may have not coded it so that we are providing the appropriate error response. So I would always request integrators to make sure that the API that they are calling first works through Postman and webhook using our Postman collection, and if they're successful, usually for most integrators we have seen that then they're able to kind of go through in their own code base.
Okay. My last question is very quickly, I will ask. In PHR app, let's say we have generated the multiple number of care context. Let's say like 10 years of care context. So as per our data, if I can see, there will be more than 100 of care context. And whenever I log in PHR app, I always get the request to share the document for all the care context and for last 5 to 7 years. So technically, it's not possible. As per our infrastructure, it's not possible.
I'm aware of this. Which organization are you from, Sanjit?
Yeah, NH.
Okay, I think I sent an email response to this query.
Yeah.
This is an issue only with our PHR app implementation. Because our PHR app, the NDHM records app, does not have any kind of cloud storage. We don't expect this to be the case from any other PHR app in the market. All the PHR apps in the market are also creating cloud storages, so they're only going to request once, they're going to cache it, and they're not going to make a callback again to all HIPs to fetch the data. So you can test this with some other PHR app, and you will find that that's the way it will behave. Yeah.
Okay,
I think I have a last question that's from Udyan Vijayan. Uday Vijayan.
Yes. Can you hear me, Kiran?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so I'm from Excel Software and Systems Private Limited. We have basically been in pharma for a long time, and we're just getting onto the Sandbox. But our basic our app, we have an existing app that is used by doctors for collaboration. So we are onboarding doctors, several doctors a week, since we are going through a route where they will get onboarded all over the country. But this app is basically to provides collaboration between doctors, between each other, with the patient, with diagnostic centers, and with other hospitals. So as far as the doctor is concerned, I think you are fairly clear that you register the clinic as a facility.
At this point, see, this is, we also have a health professional registry, and definitely you can register the doctors on the health professional registry, which is where you must register them. The question that I was responding to was a very specific use case. I'm not sure it really applies in your use case, Sanjay. Uday.
Yeah.
So I think I'm not certain about how your app works, but anybody in India who has been historically trying to create a interoperable architecture where they try to onboard a few labs, few doctors, and so on, are always going to find that unless you have an interoperable kind of a highway, you're going to always struggle, because you can't do a one-on-one integration with so many people ever. The whole idea of ABDM is to essentially get each party to do their own small bit and then have an interoperable ecosystem. So I would suggest that you get a little better understanding of what are those parts, because your application plays many of those parts in different roles. And so
yes, actually this application of ours is already there in the US. We have 100,000 users there, and we have brought it to India, and we have brought it to we have customized it or localized it basically. And the idea is that we would deal with insurance companies, with diagnostic centers, with hospitals, and with other doctors. So if a patient comes, he can be referred to other people, and then his patient health records can move. The problem is that we are supposed to be HIPAA secure. Okay. And our patient health records are not anonymized, I think, when we are sharing, right? So we are not. Yeah, so we are under the HIPAA security. We cannot. The patient health records, I think, only minimum information we can give, anonymized data.
Yeah, but who are you giving it to?
If we are providing the patient health record, we would be creating patient health records too.
Yeah, so I think that's why I'm getting very, very confused with your use case, Uday. See, if you are creating patient records that you want to share with the patient, we have an API to do that. It's called the M1, M2 API. If you are trying to get access to a patient's health records and their history, that's a different process, and you can only do that with the patient's own consent. And that's the architecture that we have.
In our case, Kiran, what would happen is that if there is, so let's say my user is a doctor, he brings on a patient. How
does he bring on? Is he telling him to?
Let's say it's an existing patient.
Closed platform. If it's a closed platform where the doctor and the patient are both using the same app, you don't need ABDM.
Yes. So as far as this is concerned, suppose that patient is already there on ABM. He has a patient health record, and he provides it.
Okay.
And then when we are referring it to a specialist who's also on our app,
sure,
and he requires other records, then he can go through your system and then take the other records, right?
With the patient's consent.
With the patient's consent, right?
See, unlike the American or the US system, please remember that ABDM works on bringing health records from multiple health providers in the context of a patient, and essentially allows the movement of those records only with the consent of the patients to anyone the patient wants.
Okay.
So as long as you get that part of the architecture and the thinking right, then you can decide in your system where each of those pieces fit in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
So much. Thanks.
So I think, guys, that brings us to the end of all the open questions. That I think we have one more, and we'll just take it before we close. Manivanan.
Yeah, Kiran, just one question. I'm just thinking of one use case wherein, let us say, I want to look at the health facilities in Karnataka, let us say, and I want to first find out, how is the distribution of the various radiologists in various places? Just to, for a business market survey or whatever. So is it possible for me to achieve that with the current NDHM support?
That's our hope to Manivanan. We don't have enough data to answer your query, unfortunately, because both for that our registries need to reach a certain level of population, right? So we are right now, our registries, both the health facility registry and the health professional registry, are not as populated to answer this query of yours. But in a few years, when we have actually managed to get the ecosystem on board then yes, definitely we'll be able to easily answer some of these questions.
But we have already heard that in Union territories already it has been populated and it is already running, right?
Yeah, that's true. But Union territories is really small, right? So
no, but I'm just taking as an example. So is it possible, for example, in Pondicherry, I can get to know how many hospitals are there and how many radiologists are there? I mean, is it possible to do that?
Yes. The answer is yes. Okay. You can try running that query on our registries. But like I said, I would say that it's a bit early for us to be confident that the numbers that you would see are really very strongly recommended, coming through from us.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. I have one last question. See, you talked about fetching the data for a given patient as long as he provides a consent. And recently, I came across one doctor mentioning that you need to have this CDSCO approval for fetching any data. So, is there any additional approvals which are coming as any like an ethical committee, additional constraint being added, etc.? Are you aware of that?
At least it's not from ABDM. I don't know if there is something that ICMR and others are doing for clinical research related that I'm not tracking. But as far as ABDM is concerned, we are not looking at anything that's coming from CDCSO. CDCO, okay. CDCSO, which organization was that? It should be CDCSO.
It is. Yes.
That will be drugs and drugs related. So it's unlikely that it is to do with us. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I will write to you maybe with more clear, phrase of the question. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. So, folks, as we bring this call to a close, I hope I saw that I'm sorry that I couldn't look at the queries and the questions on chat, but thank you so much for participating. I know it's a long this one today. We hope to hold regular open houses where we can answer questions. We'll also try to make it more structured so that we can actually take and answer questions specific, and people will be aware as to what we are taking on any given day, so that for a lot of you who are coming in, some of you might be just learning, for some of you it may be specific queries that you want to get addressed. But thank you so much. Vikram sir, we'll bring this session to a close. Any closing words?
Yeah, thank you, integrators. And we did not expect the participation that we had today. We have crossed about 200 participants. So thank you for that, and thank you, Kiran, for answering the questions so patiently. And thank you, everyone. Let us hope that we have this system which is smooth and well functioning. We'll have these sessions again and on a more regular basis. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Kiran.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks for the whole team. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you.